Didn't bring my water. Oh, I did bring my water. Hey guys, here I am. Oh, we're all very bright. How do we help out the exposure? Maybe we do that. Let's silence my computer. Sorry, getting on when that didn't work. That did. Hey guys, here we are. It's Chat with Matt. Off to a fantastic start. Chat with Matt. It is the 31st of July here in New Zealand. It is Wednesday morning or something like that. Welcome here to answer questions and to stimulate growth and understanding and energetic transformation, basically. It's an energetic experience, although we're talking in English in an intellectual way, more or less. I have a comment. Hey, Sister Melita, how are you? I believe you're on holiday somewhere exciting. I can't remember where, though. Somewhere in the Pacific. Anywho's, here we go. Sister Jen Burns wrote in the difference between resistance because something you don't enjoy doing and it aligns with your larger purpose, vision, goals versus resistance to something because it's not actually aligned with you anymore. So basically the question is, Hawaii, awesome, Melita. I've always wanted to go to Hawaii. I'm going to Hawaii one day. It's on the bucket list. So basically the question is, what is the difference, or how can you tell the difference? And more importantly, in my understanding is, hey, Brother Bart, welcome. My understanding is, what can we do, or what's the empowered way to deal with understanding the differences between resistance because something is emotionally triggering you, e.g. you don't quote unquote enjoy doing it, but it aligns with your larger purpose, vision, goals. I've all of a sudden got something in the back of my throat. And that resistance that you feel because something is not actually aligned with you anymore. So this is something here. For example, could you make the case that anything that makes you money is somehow getting you closer to your end goal or fueling your larger vision? No, I don't think I could make that case, Jen. I think a lot of the time, we sacrifice ourselves to make money, and it takes us further away from our larger goal, because sacrificing yourself for money never pays off, in my opinion. I know we have to do it, so I'm going to drink. I'm going to stop teasing you with this water. And I managed to spill it as I put it down. Hey, Bart, hello from Belgium. Hello from New Zealand. We're pretty much on, if we drilled a hole straight through the earth, we'd pretty much come out at each other's back door. So the point is, many of us mentally justify the idea that we need money to get to our end goal, therefore we should make it at any cost. And it doesn't always serve us, actually, and quite often it doesn't, because in lowering our vibration by choosing to do something that's not aligned with us and doesn't feel joyful, and understand that, I'll clarify that in a minute, that it's, all money-making or many money-making opportunities are aligned with us and don't feel particularly joyful at the time, right? So I feel like I'm already talking myself into a hole. It's a great start. But anyway, we'll keep going. So what's most important to get to your end goal, your larger vision, is that you maintain that and keep stepping into the vibration of that, and choose not to get caught in the mentalization of justifying doing things that really don't feel, and I'm going to talk to what this word feel means, in alignment. So unfortunately, there's a couple of things we need to clarify. One is we use this word feeling all the time. And quite often we don't distinguish between what we're intuitively feeling, what we're feeling in our heart, and what we are feeling emotionally, right? We use the word feel for all three of those things, and they are quite often different, right? They are quite often very different. The feelings that quite often we feel the most intensely are the surface emotions that have nothing to do with directing us into the best outcomes quite often. Quite often the surface emotions that we're feeling that really do push us around quite a bit is basically the reaction of what we're stepping into. So it's the protest. It's the triggering the triggered vibrations that are arising in our field. So as we choose to step forward into a more expansive version of ourselves, which necessarily will feel scary / we might feel vulnerable in doing that. There's a quote unquote risk because we don't know the outcome, and we have somehow revealed more of ourselves, or we've opened ourselves up to disappointment for a start. We've opened ourselves up to failure. All those things feel very scary to our intellect, and quite often what we have arise is an emotional response to that makes us think that we're making a mistake. It makes us think more and more that what we're doing is not in alignment with us because it feels so scary, it feels so dangerous, it feels so contracted or uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable, and we tend to want to shy away from that. We tend to want to protect ourselves from it. So quite often that resistance, because we don't enjoy it, but it's basically we don't enjoy it because it's challenging us to be bigger than what we have habitually been. It's pushing us out of our comfort zone. We don't enjoy being pushed out of our comfort zone, and yet that is exactly the path of growth, right? To grow, we must push out of our comfort zone that is inherently uncomfortable, and no one really enjoys it from a surface perspective, from an emotional perspective. It's not joyous. It doesn't feel joyful. Another point to consider when you're thinking about all of this, or dancing with all of this, and that's not intended to be a pun, Jen, because Jen is a dance instructor, for those of you who don't know, when you're dancing with all of this, though, is to understand when you talk about what you don't enjoy doing or what you feel is for your best good, is what aspect of you are you aligning with when you are making those statements, right? Because quite often, again, we align with lesser subsections of ourselves when we make those statements. Oh, I don't feel that I am enjoying this. What aspect of I are you talking about? Usually it's your egoic identification, your personality self that you are completely identified with when you make such statements. And one of the ways to help ourselves out of the contraction of this idea that I know I'm supposed to do this, but I don't enjoy doing it, is to expand ourselves out of the little I into a larger version of ourselves, a larger identification, a bigger I, and then we can more easily feel the joy in doing something that's not comfortable, right? The smaller self is not enjoying it, but the larger self is, because we can feel the excitement in the opportunity that's available to us. We can feel the excitement and the inherent joy, and so I define joy as the expression of love, right? Joy is an expression of love. It's love actualized. It's love put into action. That is joy. I know people have a narrower connotation of joy being, happy, joy, laughing and having fun. And that, of course, is an aspect of expression of joy. But joy for myself is much larger. I can be enjoying experiences that are not all happy and laughy. And Matt's egoic self, my personality self, is actually struggling a little bit with the level of discomfort that I'm feeling as I'm stepping through the resistance to showing up and acting in ways that are not comfortable to me, not habitual to me, not I don't feel safe in doing it because I haven't done it enough times to build up a set of evidence that it's a safe thing for me to do. Safe physically, safe emotionally, safe intellectually, right? It feels inherently uncomfortable when you're stepping into new territory, and yet if I expand my awareness, I enjoy that, right? I enjoy that because I know from a level of understanding that this is going to keep rolling and my level of expansion is going to keep growing. So, so there's a couple of options. There's a couple of things that I've mentioned here that I'm going to summarize around this whole question of knowing and working with the difference between resistance to doing something you don't enjoy, but it aligns with your larger purpose. And understand, we never really know what aligns with our higher purpose. We're only ever running on what we feel in our heart about that. So when I say we don't really intellectually know. We don't have a good body of evidence that satisfies our doubting mind that we are actually working towards a greater purpose. It's a deeper feeling that we have that our mind struggles with a lot, right? So there's quite often this push-pull going on here with the doubts in our minds arising, versus the feeling in our heart. Again, it's a feeling in our heart. We call it a feeling or a knowing. We can call it a knowing in our heart versus the knowing in our mind. The knowing in our mind wants to have facts and figures, a set of data behind it to justify the knowledge that the mind is holding. The heart doesn't run in that way. It runs in this wisdom that just knows things without you getting the benefit of the evidence that it's using. There is evidence there, right? It's in your deep history, your deep past, where you've experienced all sorts of things. Potentially, I'm not going to go down that path, talk the difference between the higher self and the soul, and the way that the higher self has access to different souls that are in the same group, and you can actually feel that wisdom in your heart, even though your own soul didn't have those experiences. But let's not muddy the water too much with the esoterics. So the point is that what's the practical application here? The practical application is to understand what aspect of you is not feeling joyful or comfortable in stepping forward into something. What aspect of you is actually feeling the deeper resistance, right? This resistance to knowing that something doesn't actually serve us anymore. Something isn't actually in alignment with us anymore. Old ways we use to earn money or old ways we use to interact in relationship really doesn't serve us anymore, and we know that, but it's still habit, and we still feel relatively comfortable with it because we have a history. We still have the neural pathways through our brain that know if we take those actions, we will have a certain outcome. Quite often that certain outcome is not really what we want, but because it's certain, our mind likes it, right? So we are drawn to the certainty, if that's a word, right? The idea that we are more likely to predict how this is going to go. And that feels inherently good to us, even though it's not serving us. So it's a matter of really bringing in some higher awareness as to when you start to feel resistance. The first thing to do is to bring it to stop, take some breaths and understand, or get a level of understanding of where the resistance is coming from. Because if it's just the personality self feeling uncomfortable because you are actually expanding into a greater outcome, then that's great to keep moving. But if it is more of a heart-centered, I actually know that this route is not going to come out with a good outcome, then you need to listen to that level of resistance and choose a more uncomfortable pathway forward that is going to lead to a better outcome, right? Which might involve not taking the easy way of earning money, even though you can justify in your mind, any way that earns me money is going to help me get to the end goal. The end goal, Jen, is not to have money, right? The end goal is to be the greatest expression of you. And if you can trust that process more, then you are likely to progress in a more efficient way. Not necessarily a more comfortable way, but definitely a more efficient way forward into being that. And of course, there's practicalities. We talk in such ways and people think, right, that's it, I'm just not going to do anything I've done before. You need to listen to your higher guidance, and sometimes there's compromises. Sometimes it is appropriate to take the easy way of earning the money because your survival's important. Right? Your survival's important. So hopefully that helped you and anyone else who's interested in dancing with resistance in an empowered way and understanding the difference between our emotional resistance to stepping forward and our deeper understanding of what we've done in the past doesn't work for us anymore, and therefore we feel resistant to doing it. There's push-pulls on both sides. Push-pull is a pretty common experience for all of us as we tread the path of spiritual expansion, or whatever we want to call that, spiritual evolution, ascension, getting on with life. There's this push-pull going on. There's always conflicting, contradictory aspects of every situation. The more that we can relax and stay out of the stress and don't make it so important, right? Let go of the idea of mistakes and just do our best in each moment, and understand that whatever moment we just had and our best was in that moment, we can always change a new tact. We don't need to commit to following a course of action if we come to the awareness that it's unfolding in a not so great way. I'm happy for anyone else to add as we go here, Bart or Emily or Sister Melita. There's a few other people on that I haven't been introduced to. That is fine. But yeah, if you have a question, post it, because that's what I have here on this post. I did receive an email conversation going on for a day or two, and there's a bit here that I thought I might talk to. So the question's really about my old life in the quote-unquote spirit in the yoga community and how that fell apart, right? How Swamiji, we came to know that Swamiji wasn't as pure as we thought, and some of his monks, some of his sannyasins also came to, be found out for not following the rules of living as a monk. And so a lot of people got very, very hurt. A lot of people felt, very much betrayed, and many of us had put a huge amount of energy into that yoga school and that lifestyle and Swamiji in general. And, for Marie and myself, it was 16 years, and many people it was longer. A lot of our own money and a lot of our own energy went, up in quote unquote smoke when we realized that we, the action to take from a space of integrity was to walk away at this stage, that we could not justify it, what had gone down, even though I particularly feel that, I learnt a huge amount, and much of what Swamiji had taught and expressed out in the world, and his school of yoga was very, very good, right? You could call it a cult, but in general, it was a way of life that I feel was quite expansive in general, although there was elements of manipulation and control in there. Of course, I think that's unfortunately through many, many good things as well have this taint. But the point is, for many people now, and this happened, so this all fell apart pretty much 2011, right? The shit hit the fan and it all went to custard. So we're talking 8 years ago when it all went south, and people are still very much scarred by that experience. So someone was talking to me about, how I reconcile it and how I work with it, because I've been talking a bit about various, of my early teachers who were part of that whole fiasco, and how I still really appreciate a lot of what I learned, and how I still remember many of the things that they told me, because it still serves me too, right? So, one of the things I said in this email conversation was, I've chosen not to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, and I'm keeping what I enjoyed about those experiences and what's really helped me, and I'm willing to share and talk about it without feeling, contracted around this whole episode, even though, there's a whole heap of not so savory aspects to it. So, one of the things I've been asked to speak to about now, if this time on the thing, can you please talk to or add something on loving after betrayal, trust broken, or on tending to babies and baths? All right, so not sure, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So I'll just flip up to another segment here of her correspondence to me. I appreciate you letting me know about the conversation and how it felt for you. I see, though, that my trust is broken there, and that I don't trust he was genuine because he's so good at manipulation. But you were there, and I will let it sink in some more. Okay, so what I want is obviously I've just seen my pens leaked on the couch. But anyway, I'll deal with that. So, understanding this thing called trust, because this idea of trust being broken and that we should trust anyone is what leads us into a lot of disappointment in this world. I think it's inherently dangerous to trust anyone. The more that I understand trust, the more that I realize the only thing we should trust in this world is our own heart and our own sense of what's right and wrong in the moment, and even understanding that we feel that our own heart betrays us sometimes because it leads us into situations that don't have the outcome that we egoically wanted, that was comfortable, that felt, safe and nurturing and all the rest of it, right? Quite often I've been led by my own heart into taking expansive action steps into things that went quite a long way south, right? They did not turn out as I wanted, and I felt betrayed, and I certainly didn't enjoy the experience at the time. But it's only in reflection, it's only in looking back through this stuff. Hey Pat, hey Auntie Jeanette, how are you? Talking about trust. So trusting other people inherently leads to disappointment. And then holding on to the idea that someone's broken our trust and that they manipulated us doesn't really help. Understanding why we can label someone as a manipulator, basically they're just doing what they feel to do in the moment. And that's all any of us can do. People will, we feel that we've been manipulated because we were trusting them to do the right thing for us. And I think that's inherently a very dangerous thing to do about anyone, right? I really don't feel that it's appropriate to trust anyone in your life to do what's best for you. Basically, everyone in this world will be doing what's best for them as they feel in the moment. And when you can trust that that's how everyone operates, and that all you need to do is trust your heart and to know in any particular moment whether you should trust what they're saying or not, whether you should trust their actions or not, whether you should allow what's going on to influence you or not. That's the point, right? The point is to trust yourself to act implicitly as you feel in the moment, rather than saying, oh, I don't feel good about what they're doing, but I'm choosing to trust them. That is just stupid, right? And that's what leads us into trouble. When we give away our power and give carte blanche power to someone else to do whatever they feel that involves us in a way, even if that involvement is just how it, emotionally affects us. No, that's not even. I've kind of lost my thread there with how, just observing other people and thinking that they're doing the right thing because they're a quote unquote trustworthy person. This whole idea of a trustworthy person is very dangerous, right? You should question what anyone says at any time, in my opinion. I'm not willing to give away my power like that. So, hey, Sister Elizabeth and Maria, I'm talking about trust being broken, Liz, in response to a question from Kate. So people are very good at manipulation, that is true. And the only thing they have to manipulate us by is our trust and this idea that they are doing the right thing, quote unquote, right thing for us. And we never really know what the right thing is. I look back on the whole experience. I'm basically talking about the unfolding of YIDL, Liz. I look back on the whole experience and see how much I benefited from it in so many different ways, despite the fact that, for some years it was incredibly difficult back then as it all fell apart. The outcome where I now sit today made it all worth it. And I understand that the way it fell apart was quote unquote uncomfortable, but wasn't really wrong. And you take moralistic viewpoints on the behavior that was going on, and you can very easily justify that is quote unquote wrong. But the truth is, I wasn't touched by it, right? None of those experiences happened to me. So it's very easy to start putting ourselves in other people's shoes and putting people in labeled boxes based on what is secondhand knowledge. And I know this is very difficult ground to tread. If someone you've had a relationship with, an experience with, has always done the right thing by you as you felt, and yet you find out that they weren't doing the right thing from someone else, does that ruin what they've done for you, right? Now, I know in a way you go, but how can you trust that they were doing the right thing for you? You can trust they're doing the right thing for you because you felt it was the right thing for you, right? But they're underhanded and they're deceived and they're this and they're that, all sorts of labels. And while, yes, you can understand there's a perspective of holding that, the relationship you had with that person was benefiting you, and your particular relationship with them wasn't hurting anyone else. If you don't feel that you were complicit in hurting others, and then you say, but if you had have known that they were hurting others, you should have pulled away from them straight away, which I didn't, or didn't know mainly. But the point is, are you feeding someone by still liking them? Are you feeding someone in their bad behavior by not condemning them and throwing them in a bucket of wrongness? It's a difficult line to play, and at the end of the day, all you can do is fall back into your heart and honor what you feel. And so talking to babies and baths, for me, I don't tend to make the whole experience wrong, and I'm not willing to throw away all of the gems of knowledge and wisdom and experience and understanding that came through many of those experiences that were happening at the same time as other people were having experiences that weren't quote unquote good at all. So my choice is to stay true to what I know in my heart and to honor the wisdom that I gained from those experiences, and to keep spreading that wisdom in my own language, in my own way, without basically holding on to the badness that went down, right? Because it would only poison myself to keep thinking ill of them because they did something quote unquote wrong. It would only taint my ability to bring through the wisdom that I gained through experiences I had with them if I was to hold judgment against them and not be willing to move on, not be willing to basically forgive what they've done to someone else, which didn't actually even hurt me, other than the fact that it did hurt when I found out how bad it was and that I needed to leave. Anyway, it's an interesting conversation. Trust gets broken all the time, and it's important to understand that the only way trust can get broken is when trust is given when it potentially should not be. Trust your own heart. Be willing to question everything. Don't make it a big fat test that you need to understand exactly what people are doing all of the time. The thing to trust is whether the experience is serving you, not whether the person is good, right, and proper all the time. None of us are quote unquote saints. None of us are walking this planet, in my opinion. And so there's always going to be, because understand that everything comes from a perspective. What's good for someone is not good for someone else. And I know you can go, but yeah, how can it ever be good for such and such to happen? I don't know. But I do know that perspective is everything. And for me, it just serves you to get over trust being broken, the sense of being betrayed, and to come back into your own loving heart, right? Because at the end of the day, holding bitterness about experiences from the past is only poisoning yourself and is not serving anyone. And I know it's hard to get over the idea. A lot of it's our own self-judgment, right? That how could we have been so stupid to trust them? How could we have been so stupid not to know what they were doing? How could we have been so stupid to, go along with them when they were doing these quote unquote bad things? And that's why we hold resentment to them. And it doesn't help. So find forgiveness on all levels, forgiveness for yourself, forgiveness for them, and just choose to understand that experiences from the past always have elements of serving in them, benefit in them, and to move forward, right? To relax into allowing your heart to be more expansive so that you can move forward into this moment now, right? Because if you're holding on to the wrongness that happened in the past, you're likely to keep having reflections of that wrongness come back to you. If it's a primary vibration in your field, you're going to keep experiencing it in some way, whether that's subconsciously or whether it's actually manifesting in your life. The experience of feeling betrayed is very powerful, and unfortunately it generally keeps bringing betrayal type situations back into your life. So my advice is to always do your best to breathe and relax and to find the love in your own heart, and just basically to let go of what's happened in the past, to let it go. We've learnt wisdom from it, all of us, and now's the time to move forward. Well, now's the time. Now's as good a time as any. Every breath is as good time to move forward into a more expansive version of our future. That's all we can do. So, my friends, that was Chat with Matt for this week. Half an hour of my thoughts in response to whatever questions come my way. Hopefully that has shed some light on something for you in some way, even if you are completely baffled by what I'm talking about, as many of you will be. The sentiments are there. Basically, trust your own heart above all else. And that goes for what we were talking about earlier with, knowing where the resistance is coming from, whether it's our egoic resistance or our deeper heart-based resistance to doing stuff that doesn't serve us. It can sometimes feel quite similar. Anyway, my friends, much, much love to you all. Namaste. Speak to you again next week. Enjoy whatever's coming your way, and I look forward to answering more questions and speaking to any other topics that you feel, right? I'll pop a notification up about 12 hours before I come on next week. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Bart. Much, much love to you all. I will speak again soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.